The swelling and the redness and the tenderness are all signs of inflammation. The immune system begins with mast cells, very, very small cells in the bloodstream, releasing histamine because they get a chemical message to do so. And that causes the swelling. Yeah, by allowing the serum plasma to leak through the bloodstream out of the blood vessels into the affected tissue, bringing in the white blood cells to fight that infection and to protect that area until it can heal. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
And welcome back to the Forbidden Doctor Podcast. This is podcast episode 154, Inflammation, Curse or Savior.
Today we're going to talk about some forbidden stuff that's been hidden from you for way too many decades. What we're going to present is the constant talk going around all the areas of healthcare over an increasingly talked about subject, inflammation. Even cancer is now being blamed on inflammation in some circles.
Yeah, it's always been around in our medical jargon, but over the last few decades, as each new decade becomes history, the presence of inflammation in our discussions about health is simply exploding. From the earliest childhood vaccination-induced inflammation to an ever-decreasing age for the onset of Alzheimer's.
Yeah. But before we get into that, for our regular listeners, the next 4 minutes is our financial stuff. You can fast forward through it if you choose, but for our new listeners, please listen at least one time so you can understand how we do things around here.
We want to take a few minutes to talk about why we do not have sponsors.
Yeah, we've been approached many times to sell different products on our show.
But we've always been compelled to resist these financially tempting offers because the work we're doing here is just too important to be beholden to some brand names who could object or even try to gain editorial control over some of the forbidden things that we say.
Yeah, so we would never allow this kind of advertising on our show.
And others have mentioned that while the knowledge we share cannot be found anywhere else, it is often tied to products such as the whole food supplements from the oldest nutritional company in America, Standard Process, which we often reference during our shows.
And this also would include our own ageless thyroid and long life energy enzymes.
Yeah, and so you might ask, could not our own products be creating conflicts of interest? I mean, have we mistakenly created an infomercial instead of free knowledge podcasts?
No. We do this on purpose.
Yes, we do. Years of experience in our clinics. And almost 500,000 downloads of our podcasts have taught us a few things. And the most important is that the type of nutrient-dense foods most of us need to get our bodies actually healing from years of malnutrition are not easily integrated in most of our lives.
Yeah, the quest for excellence in nutrition has never been an easy endeavor.
Yeah, no one wants to eat raw liver, but absolutely no one is going to sign up to eat raw liver daily for 6 months if that's what it's going to take.
Well, some people will. A patient of ours found she was told she had only a few months to live, and refusing that notion, she went home and threw some liver in a blender with a few spices and drank that every day for months.
Yes.
She lived very well for another 20 years.
Yeah, I met her more than 20 years ago when we were both doing a radio show at the same station.
But many people will not do that.
Well, no.
Yeah.
No, so let us be clear. We reference one-of-a-kind whole food supplements from the nutrition company Standard Process because this is a way to realistically nourish ourselves with the whole food and organ meats we would never eat on a daily basis.
And the reason we do our podcast this way is because it has saved our lives and countless others that we've worked with over the years.
So we sell supplements, and we try to give free knowledge away about how nutrition touches every aspect of our lives, and so necessarily these two overlap.
But we want to be very clear here. Some of you may feel real hardship with even a modest monthly donation and cannot afford even a single month's supply of supplements.
So please then, do not buy our supplements.
Or even try to financially support our show in any way if you cannot afford to. This free information will still be yours forever.
Yeah, of course.
And we want you to take it and use it with our blessing.
But if you like what we do at Forbidden Doctor, there are several ways you can still support us.
Yeah, you can leave a positive comments or reviews on our website underneath the podcasts or on iTunes or YouTube, or like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter or on Instagram. That type of support for us, is free. It costs you nothing, and we would greatly appreciate it, and it would greatly help our mission.
Yeah. So if you're ready to take your first steps for your own health, take our free symptom survey and let our nutrition specialists develop a personalized protocol for you. And then try some of these one-of-a-kind whole food supplements for yourself.
Yeah, there's a link for this free survey on the very top red bar on every page of our website, forbiddendoctor.com.
Now, if you already support our show, thank you.
Yes.
And please know that you are the very reason we fight this good fight. Your support makes this all possible. So now, on with the things they don't want you to know.
Yes.
So let's get started with some basic ideas. So, Mary, what is inflammation exactly?
Well, many people think of inflammation as a bad thing. Most people think of that when they hear inflammation. That's bad. But in truth, it's it's like the new big thing now is inflammation.
Yeah.
But it's a natural response from the immune system that helps protect us from further harm. See, inflammation is not the dirty words doctors say it is. Inflammation is your body bringing blood to a part of the body that needs to heal. And how else do we heal but by our blood?
We don't.
And I know those nerves, when those nerves inflame, it's very painful. But inflammation is very healing. But of course, chronic inflammation is not good.
Well, there's two types of inflammation. There's acute and there's chronic. And almost everyone is familiar with acute inflammation. You cut your finger, you get a sunburn, you get a bee sting, and the swelling, the redness.
On your period, that kind of inflammation.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And so the swelling and the redness and the tenderness are all signs of inflammation. The immune system begins with mast cells, very, very small cells in the bloodstream, releasing histamine because they get a chemical message to do so. And that causes the swelling.
Damage.
Yeah, by allowing the serum plasma to leak through the bloodstream out of the blood vessels into the affected tissue, bringing in the white blood cells to fight that infection and to protect that area until it can heal.
Beautiful.
And that swelling, the redness, the puffiness, it gets very warm. That swelling also allows for the introduction of nutrition in the form of larger amounts of oxygen and fats in the form of cholesterol.
Yay.
And amino acids for tissue rebuilding.
And those amino acids are those broken down proteins that we need to eat.
Yep, exactly. And they're there. It's in a form that does not cause allergic reactions. The body is taking care of this.
Well, maybe people don't realize that proteins break down into amino acids.
Yeah, very good. And then there's other aspects, of course, of the immune system besides just white blood cells. But in a short time, in most cases, the inflammatory reaction gets the job of healing underway, and then the process slows and then stops, and then the regular processes return.
Because chronic inflammation, it's another matter altogether.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's inflammation that does not stop, and it manifests as a response to damaged or unwanted compounds or toxins in the body, like toxic smoke. Short term, it can cause inflammation in the lungs temporarily, but smoking cigarettes daily causes chronic inflammation.
Exactly.
As we talked about in our asthma podcast last time, the toxic load coming from the liver can cause chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
So a buildup of fat, especially around the liver or in the abdominal cavity, or a plaque inside the walls of the artery, also causes chronic inflammation, and that's that's the chronic inflammation. It's
right.
The buildup.
It causes
never-ending ulcer.
The chronic inflammation cause the plaquing, cause these things to happen, but then the plaquing leads to further inflammation.
Well, yeah, because you've got that, you've got an artery ripping or tearing, and your body calls, the healing fat from the liver to bring that cholesterol up.
The LDL.
And patch that artery and save your life. But you have to fix the reason for the inflammation.
Right.
Going and going and going, because
eventually
that's
we want to get into that.
Yeah.
See, and unlike acute inflammation, you bang your finger with a hammer or something. Chronic inflammation is one of the main drivers behind many of the types of health problems and conditions, including asthma, like we talked about in our last podcast, Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, osteoarthritis, heart disease, problems in the central nervous system, not the least of which is Alzheimer's, and more. And inflammation is simply your body's response to stress, either physical or emotional.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stressors can lead to this. I mean, one of the major stressors that is everywhere anymore comes from our dietary choices, especially from a daily diet consisting of lots of sugar, which is a lethal component of chronic inflammation. And we refer you to podcast 87, 108 ways sugar can ruin your health.
Yeah, that's a scary one.
And I think we'll get into this a little bit further about how sugar causes inflammation in the bloodstream.
Yeah, so what is the sugar relationship to inflammation? It isn't just sugar that's the enemy.
Yes.
There are other culprits in our dietary choices. And
sugar gets a bad rap, but like you said, there's others.
Yeah, an inflammatory diet is one that promotes inflammation or contains inflammatory foods, such as foods including sugar in all its many forms. You got the high fructose corn syrup and, all different types of sugars, the dextrose and what's some other...
Well, there's maltose and then there's man-made maltodextrin, and there's a lot of different sugars. There's the raw sugar and...
But things that people don't think about are the polyunsaturated vegetable oils.
That's the point I want to make.
They're so inflammatory.
Yes.
And then many other chemical food additives like GMO foods loaded with pesticides and residue and other heavily sprayed foods. Remember, plants don't have liver and kidneys. They can't get rid of this
themselves,
stuff.
No.
Yeah, so it's just there. And they are essentially baptized in glyphosate-based chemicals.
You couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
And then the simple carbohydrates, man mostly, the candies and the cakes and the cookies and the breads, and these promote inflammation because they raise blood glucose. But when you eat sugar in any form, that sugar is going to get in the bloodstream really quick because the body wants the energy from it. And as soon as it hits a certain level, the pancreas is going to release insulin. And insulin is caustic, and it's irritating to the walls of the bloodstream, so it should only be there for a few minutes. In other words, you eat a little bit of carbohydrate, the body will take care of that when it's reduced to sugar, getting it into the cells, and then your insulin levels go down. But when you have sugar at breakfast, what was that old, honey in the morning, honey in the evening, honey at supper time?
Well, I had
whatever, the old song is just sugar in the morning, keeps the insulin levels high, and insulin is constantly irritating and inflaming the bloodstream. And so that promotes inflammation because of when you get this elevated glucose, you get elevated insulin, but you also get an increased rate of something that's called advanced glycation end products. They're known as AGEs, which are very pro-inflammatory. And anything that promotes the production of free radicals also is pro-inflammatory. And the AGEs do this, the advanced glycation end products.
The MSG, the aspartame.
No, those aren't AGEs, but those definitely are irritating and inflammatory to the system. So then the polyunsaturated fats do this because they're very unstable. They break down. They have a very poor structure to them. The only polyunsaturated fats that there's a few of them that are good for you, especially the omega-3s, very fragile fats. But the stuff that's being pushed on us, like canola oil, and we just saw an incredible article about that, soybean oil, and a lot of the other oils, walnut oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, these things in their raw state are fine.
Yeah, but
but people are using these things to cook in them, and it destroys it, and it becomes inflammatory to the body.
And they sound so wonderful. Vegetable oil. I mean, what they found with this canola oil is it damages the synaptic integrity in your brain.
It interferes with one nerve talking to the next nerve. So I'll see in this week in the clinic, I'll see at least one new patient that says, I have peripheral neuropathy. And I said, well, how do you know that? Well, I feel like I'm walking on cobblestones under my feet. And I'll say, and I know you don't like this because you think I start punishing people when I say this. What have you been eating?
Oh, I hate this.
I know. What have you been eating? And high sugar diets, high vegetable oil diets, and those two things together. When you bring sugar and vegetable oil together, you are going to have chronic inflammation in your body.
Yeah, charred or overly cooked foods.
Yes.
And of course, then you got the pesticides, and which we talked about.
Yeah.
So processed foods are all likely pro-inflammatory because they usually all contain sugar, some pesticide residue, of course, the vegetable oils and food additives that promote inflammation. So stay away from packaged, processed foods. Eat fresh and whole foods and animal foods as raw as you can. You know, we always call the middle of the grocery store the dead zone. And we could call it the pro-inflammatory zone.
Oh, I like that even better.
Yeah.
When I first was giving public lectures, and I would ask the audience, where in the supermarket is the dead zone? Oh, back in the butcher department.
The dead.
No,
the dead
the animals are dead. Yeah, they
I was walking.
They come in dead. They go out dead. They aren't made dead there. No. It's what's in a box, a bag, and a can.
You know, I think I get anxiety when I walk. I was walking through the dead zone of a supermarket the other day looking for honey. And I literally thought of that. I'm like, this is scary to walk in here because we always go around the whole side, you know, the fruits and vegetables or whatever we're getting, and then the meat, and then the dairy, and then we end over in cosmetics usually. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah,
but
why are we always in the cosmetic
I think that's
department?
the dead zone
I don't
too,
buy
but-
cosmetics.
But see, this is what they do with those boxes of pretty colors. It's like a dead person that they put makeup on to make them look alive. That's the analogy I think of, and that's, of course, there's makeup right there.
Well, the
but
packaging experts for these food companies, that's
they
what they're
cost
trying
more
to do.
than the food inside many times. But it's just, to me, it's like a dead person in a coffin.
And these foods are so nutritionally depleted,
Yeah.
overcooked, overprocessed, exposed to all kinds of chemicals.
But
Well-
so, you know, it's an anxiety. And I don't know if I care about so much what people think of me, but I have had quite a few of our patients meet me in the grocery stores. But I literally was walking through the dead zone going, oh, I don't want anybody to see me in here.
I'm going back to the meat department.
Yeah, I found my
They
raw
got some
honey.
nice looking deep ocean perch and king
yeah.
salmon. And
It's so good.
well, anyway, a low carb, by contrast, and when Mary's saying eat fresh whole foods, she also means organic wherever possible.
Always, yeah.
But a low carb or a keto diet would be very anti-inflammatory, the ketogenic diet especially, because the keto diet actually activates genes that downregulate inflammation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and the keto diet also activates genes that produce nutrients to calm the free radical oxidative stress that takes place in the body.
So-
and by keto, we're talking about low carb.
Low carb, which you can't eat cardboard. So if you eat low sugar, you need to eat high fat.
Yeah, or it'll be flavorless.
Yeah, if you eat low fat, everything's going to be low or high sugar. So because you're not going to eat cardboard, so just remember that you have to replace these sugar cravings with fat.
Yes.
Or you're going to be anxiety, depressed, crazy person. So lifestyle or environment is always a huge contributing component.
Yes.
So think what happens when you catch a cold. You may probably experience inflammation in the form of a fever as your body heats up to deal with the invading virus and
Yes.
kill it. And this process further activates your immune system through warming the body. And this kind of inflammation is good. But the modern epidemic of chronic, low-grade inflammation destroys the balance in your body.
Yes.
When your body's systems experience a constant chronic inflammatory response, you become more susceptible to aging and disease.
Yeah. Now, most of us know that fever helps to eradicate the invading virus, but what's the process, the mechanism of action? How does this work? Well, besides activating the immune system to a more active level, raising the body temperature liberates calcium, which is absolutely critical in fighting infection
Why do you
out
think,
of the bones.
Yeah, little kids get a temperature when they're
Teething, yeah.
If they don't have enough calcium in their body or in their diet, they're going to pull the calcium from the bone. So
to make those teeth.
yeah, to get rid of that fever in a good way, of course,
Yeah.
you don't use drugs to do it. You give them calcium.
Well, this isn't the best option getting calcium from your bones.
No.
You need to do it dietarily, of course. But such a drastic step only becomes necessary when you don't have sufficient calcium in your body to fight the infection. And calcium just happens to be nature's most powerful antiviral compound, as it empowers what is known as the calcium wave.
Mm-hmm.
And, that means fever indicates a need for calcium. So it's time for standard processes, calcium lactate, cataplex F, and cataplex C, the healing triad. I think we have
636.
a podcast very early
Number 4?
It's back that far.
Number 3 or
on
4.
the healing triad. And inflammation is simply another signal that the body needs to support from nutrient, chemicals, and the unrelenting inflammation, the day to day to day, indicates very clearly that the healing process isn't able to move from the inflammatory response to the healing because we lack those nutritional factors. So the body can't spend its time rebuilding. It can't spend its time recreating healthier cells. It's spending all its time repairing, and that is such an energy drain on the body.
So it is number 3, the healing triad.
Okay, good.
I looked it up. So,
all right.
So we have a protocol on our website called Inflammation. If you want to go there and just keep these products, take them daily if you want to keep the inflammation down.
And there's other things we didn't mention that are in the protocol, and we're not going to take time to mention it here, that are in the protocol that you can get at forbiddendoctor.com and then search for inflammation, and they're there. Beautiful, wonderful herbs, especially like turmeric, that will come in and absolutely, especially the turmeric we recommend.
It's the most bioavailable. I don't care what people tell you.
25 times stronger than what you're going to find in the average market.
Yeah.
Because of the way it's processed.
Yeah, it has some ingredients in it that help the turmeric become more bioavailable.
So there's only...
But
I'm sorry.
But before we get into that, I do want to state one thing. You know, the medical way with inflammation is, of course, anti-inflammatories. And all it does is get rid of the pain, the symptom. It's like covering up the light on the oil light on your car. It's really crazy. You know, when steroids, the biggest anti-inflammatory there is, when they were first invented, they were called the death drug.
Oh, yeah.
They were only given in the last 7 days of life because they knew it stopped all healing. But who cares in the last 7 days of your life? Make the patient feel good. Make them feel better. It's probably going to speed their death a little bit, but, you know, I guess they were terminal. Now we give low-dose prednisone to everybody, and it makes everybody feel better.
Weeks on end.
Yeah. I had a patient, I don't have patients, but the patient of the clinic that had to go visit her daughter over in Europe and to bring her home from her mission. And she was so inflamed and so miserable and had chronic fatigue and all kinds of different things. And her doctor gave her 2 steroids. And she got on them and she says, Mary, I am never going to go off of these. I feel so wonderful.
Oh, yes, that's exactly what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Suppresses all immune response.
She said, I don't care if I die because I can't not feel, this is what everybody feels like. I'm like, yeah, you should take our ageless thyroid. You'll feel like this. But anyway, she went to Europe and just had a great time. And I think she was there like 3 weeks or maybe a month. I don't know. It's quite a long time, actually. And she was very worried about it. And she came back and almost died. I mean, her whole body, because her whole body was so inflamed from this chronic fatigue that wasn't being addressed in the gut as it should have been. But that is the way out of inflammation.
Yeah.
There is a way out.
And
chronic,
yes, there is
chronic
a way
systemic
out. There's
inflammation.
Only one way out. That is natural, and that's to properly understand the role your gut plays in moderating inflammation throughout all the body. There are many chemical compounds that the body produces, from prostaglandins to immunoglobulins to chemical messengers, that are all involved in the process of mitigating inflammation. But there's one part of you that holds all of those processes in the most beautiful palm of its pink little hand, and that is a healthy gut.
Well, the following is what we have learned from Dr. McBride.
Well, I'll paraphrase in places and quote in others, but I started off talking about our gut. Our gut holds the roots of our health. If you have a tree with sick roots, the tree's not going to thrive. Yeah. And no matter how far and proud the twigs and branches might be away from the roots, if those roots are sick, the tree is going to wilt. It's going to die.
Yeah, and the same thing happens in our own body.
Yes.
If the gut is sick, If it's unhealthy, then the rest of the body cannot function. You will wilt. You will die.
Yeah.
You will just keep rooting away for many years, going from one sickness to the next. And as long as the roots stay sick, you will stay sick.
I don't know how it can be said simpler.
Yeah.
So the GAPS that we're talking about, the GAPS nutritional protocol focuses on healing the roots of your health. And indeed, this analogy of the roots with the plants has been observed by many scientists through the decades from the last century, because when you look under the microscope and the roots of the plant at the microvilli, the villi that's in the digestive tract of the human beings,
They look the same.
they look the same. And the roots of the plant derive the nutrition and protection from the soil around them.
Well, the surprise is that the gut flora inside us is the soil around our roots.
Oh, yeah.
Because the gut flora is made out of microbes, and it's the same with healthy soil. Healthy soil is largely made out of microbes. And these microbes and all the organic matter that they're processing is like the soil inside of us, inside of our own digestive system.
Yeah, exactly. When the roots of a tree go deep into the soil, it's the microbes that gather around the roots of that tree that do the mineral transformation from rock into an organic compound that gets into that plant. It's not the plant. You have a dry sponge.
Some microbes.
You'd have a dry sponge, a white or a yellow dry sponge, and you stick it down into colored water. Suddenly the sponge is full of colored water. That's not what's going on here. This is where the roots, all the tiny little fingers like the enterocytes that line the wall of your gut, the billions and billions of them that are in there, are all like these little roots, and they are covered with bacteria that assist the movement of food from the gut through the enterocyte into the bloodstream. Just like the bacteria in the soil do the same thing for a tree. And the recent research has shown that about 90% of all the genetic material inside of us, all the cells in our human body, is our gut flora. It's our soil.
90%.
We're only a shell.
Yeah.
Our genes, our DNA is only 10% of all the genetic material inside our skin. And so we provide a habitat for the soil, and we ignore that part of our physiology at our peril. I mean, it's very, very important.
But unfortunately, our modern lifestyles are full of antibiotics, are full of pesticides and fertilizers and various other chemicals that we keep pouring into our bodies.
And they simply destroy the soil. They unbalance it inside of us. They kill off a lot of microbes in it. And that means other microbes, which used to be controlled by these good microbes, end up overgrowing, and they start causing damage, and they start causing trouble. And your roots become sick, the roots of your health. And that means the rest of your body cannot function. You have to, just in the plants in your garden, the trees in your orchard, you have to attend to the roots first.
So we start off saying that inflammation isn't the problem. The problem is, why is it present in your body? Your body is set to rebuild and restore, not to degenerate. 24/7, it's either rebuilding and restoring, or it's stuck in a constant effort to repair itself due to some inflammatory process.
Yeah, so which is it in you? I mean, who's going to win, the restoring or the repairing? And this is completely dependent upon the health of your gut, which is why you constantly hear Mary and I talking about GAPS, not to sound like a broken record, but in the words of the father of medicine, Hippocrates, 2,400 years ago, all diseases begin in the gut.
Yes, they do.
And it never ceases to surprise Mary and me, this huge movement within medical research that is pointing to the gut as the source of disease as well as the source of healing.
Yeah, didn't you just read something the other day that the gut health and Parkinson's?
Oh, yeah.
Something you can...
Yeah, more and more Parkinsonian research is looking at the gut.
Boy, I hope it's a flood. You know, you said it's a flood, but I don't see a flood of medical research doing this, but I hope so. And Dr. McBride should win a Nobel Prize.
Yeah. After all these centuries, Hippocrates was right on.
Yeah. So go to podcast 150. It's not too long ago. This is 154. Go to podcast 150. It's called GAPS, Quick and Easy, super simple, super easy, and it can save your life.
Yeah, and even if you've done it before, don't forget to do our free symptom survey that we offer at ForbiddenDoctor.com. If you're having a problem with the very thing that we're talking about in this podcast, inflammation, at the bottom of the survey, write in, I am suffering from constant inflammation. And we'll give you a protocol that is listed in forbiddendoctor.com, personalizing it just for you based on the questions that you answered in the symptom survey.
Yeah, many of you may be finding us for the first time. So keep in mind the protocols on our website and what we're talking about are only available to logged in users. But you can easily create an account instantly by taking our free, no obligation symptom survey. You'll also have the opportunity to have a free 30-minute phone consultation. Nobody else out there offers this.
Oh, yeah. And another thing that they don't, because this ends up saving you money in the long run because you're not taking supplements you don't need.
Yeah.
And all of this at no charge.
Up to that point. You get a free protocol, you get a free consultation, and if you decide to purchase the recommended supplements, you can get them for a 10% discount if you sign up for our text blasts. And these text blasts give you fantastic coupons every single week. Just text the word healthy to 41411 and we'll text you back a coupon which you can use on our website, forbiddendoctor.com, when you check out.
Yes. And or you can just call the office, 801-523-1890, and they will help you answer any questions about the supplementation and our Forbidden Doctor's mission.
So hopefully we revealed some health secrets that they don't want you to know. And also remember that your patronage of our offers keeps this podcast on the air. And
don't forget to tell your family and friends to take our free symptom survey at forbiddendoctor.com to find out where they are in all of this process.
Oh, yeah. And please, everybody go to iTunes and rate our podcast. If you've liked anything you've learned so far, please go back to iTunes and rate it. We would so appreciate it. Let's get us in the top of the new and hot podcasts again, because we've been there. So with your simple rating, we can rise in the ranks. So if you've enjoyed this at all, you've enjoyed any of them, please go to iTunes and leave some feedback or just rate us. It would be so much appreciated. So
the statements made in this podcast about specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration.
I can tell it's you.
I didn't. And they're not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging or this podcast is for informational purposes only. It's not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. What are you talking about? Do it again?
No, it's
I think it was funny.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Thank you for listening to this Forbidden Information and our Forbidden podcast.
Join us next time for another in-depth discussion of forbidden knowledge. We will see you then.
Yes, we will. So long.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. If you are curious about long life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com or get our enzyme formula from amazon.com by searching the full term Long Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.